all. I'm Epstein with your metal market wrap-up, and this wrap-up is for the evening of Friday, and it's your weekend edition, and this is June 28th. We'll be in July on the next videos for you. All right, interesting night, I think you'd agree. We saw President Biden implode, and what we learned today when he was back on the stage at a fundraiser was very clear. The man is a professional politician. We've known that by his career. He can read teleprompters and do his acting as well as anybody there is because he's done it all his life. What he can't do, and it was crystal clear, is think on his own 2 feet without notes in front of him. I'm just calling it the way I saw it, by the way. I'm not anti the man. I respect the man. He's devoted his life to public service. In America, you have to. And he deserves it. But he couldn't think on his feet. He was staring into Never Never Land. My friends were writing me texts. They go, there goes the election, because they wanted to vote for him, all right? A lot of people just don't like the personality of Trump. My friends just said they gave up. It was just a disaster. You can't have this running the country. Trump's a better choice, but that's not their number one choice. In fact, that's what you're hearing all over. What you're hearing is this is all we can put up to be the president of the United States, these two gentlemen. But do I think it's over? Yes, for Biden. Do I think that Trump should debate him? Absolutely not. There's nothing to be gained. You play this game the way you know how you have to play. What does Trump have to gain by having a debate with Biden now? All he can do is make Biden look good. There is no upside for him. Can't be done. So if I'm him, let them say, you don't want to debate me again, you don't want to do this. That's how it'll be. I think the world looked at this, and I think you saw that way a little bit in the stock market and the bond market, is people have to now start pricing in the reality that as close as the race is, that when we see the polls come out in 5 days, I am guessing, I could be here saying, boy, did I guess that wrong. But I am guessing that the initial polls were very much in favor of Trump against Biden as to who won and probably other questions that they give. It's still 5 months away. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of data on Monday coming out, Monday. You've got the S&P Global. They're going to come out with their June manufacturing sector PMI. That'll be an important number. We know that PMI and CPIs fit into the PCE, and today's PCE numbers, mild. You saw more income for the Americans. You saw less spending, which was a surprise to me. And we're seeing the rate of acceleration on all these numbers really slow down. In fact, very positive slowdown. They're still increasing, but the amount of the increase, that's what you have to look at to wonder where's the tipping point, and wherever the tipping point is that the Fed feels comfortable, that's when they start cutting rates to get ahead of the curve. So this was a good report in terms of that, in my opinion. The ISM comes out with their June manufacturing sector index at 9, so we'll see what that looks like. Construction spending data for May comes out at 9. We're going to get the EIA petroleum stocks on Wednesday. I'm mentioning this because Thursday we're closed for the July 4th holiday, and you probably get some early closes on Wednesday. We're also going to get natural gas numbers on Wednesday instead of Thursday because we're closed. Monday, important day. This is the last day. They announced it today at the Supreme Court session for this term. What does that mean? It means we're going to get the Trump announcement. Does he have the immunity or doesn't he have it? Is the court not going to decide it and send it back down to the lower courts? It's a wide open part, and we're going to get social media issues. You know, there were a bunch of big decisions today that came out, some in favor of, I think out of the 1,400 people that have been arrested for the January 6th, it affects about 250 of them from what I've been heard, so there'll be appeal cases with what the courts can do. We saw the SEC lose power this week. In fact, all regulatory bodies lost a lot of power this week going back to the court system. Baker Hughes, the rig count, down another 7. It just keeps falling. And that's getting to the point where, yes, technology's made up a difference, but we got to start being careful here. We're cutting so much that there'll be a point here, we're approaching it. We're going to start importing a bit more oil, sending money abroad. This is not what's needed. We'll see how long it lasts. If if Trump comes into power, and if he can get power in Congress, we will become very much self-sufficient. If Biden stays in, that will not be the game. So, that's where we're at. So let's take a look at, see how the markets wanted to play this out. Energy markets fell a little bit today. You had the bonds and the notes at first, when they saw the PCE take off, they fell a big amount of points. This is not a little break. That's a big break. 1 in 10, 30 seconds is a lot. And you went here from 110.16, not down as much, but almost a full point break to the low. That's one heck of a break here. But this break, and let me come back to the bonds. You realize that's over a 2-point break. I was talking to the close. Look at that. It's monstrous. So the market had a reversal of thought. I think what happened is they saw the PCE, they got excited, and then they all realized, what are we going to do about this debate? Because it's been on the news all day long, and people realize it's more inflation coming our way. That is how I'm viewing it. In the grain numbers that we saw today, the big surprise was in corn, a lot more that we thought we had. Beans, one of the less amounts. In the wheat market was more. And acreage, supplies, as you put it together. I sent it out to all the clients this morning. On the markets here, in the currencies, it's a mixed bag today. Dollar down a little, up a little bit in the euro. They tried to break the Aussie dollar, took it down, and then snapped it right back. And in the pound, well, they're getting some better numbers, but I think it's too late for Prime Minister Sunak. I think he's going to be out of a job, and I think we will see a whole change. In fact, you've got to pay attention if you trade in Europe to the next 10 days. You got a lot going on with the elections now in France, 2 coming up. You got the UK. You got a lot going on. In the gold market, this is, any way you want to cut it when you go to a monthly chart, this was a good month. And you're at one of the highest closes you've had in years on a monthly basis. All right, that's good. When you break it down and you start getting narrower and narrower on the weekly and the daily, what you can see, you've given up those highs and you've pulled back through here, but you still have a bullish bias. When you just look at the chart action, you have lower highs and lower lows. That's still bearish. But all I was looking for on the weekly charts, and I've said it over and over, is a challenge of the 18-week average. I've got what I wanted. You'll say, well, it didn't quite hit it, Ira. I think when I started saying it, you're up here, you're within $4 or $5. It can still hit it, but I think that's going to be a zone of support in the market in the near term. And no, I didn't say it's a buy number, but I think that could end the decline in the market at this point, and you have corrected an overbought condition that, in theory, when you had an embedded reading and you lose it, you should go to that number. So the question is, did it get close enough or not? I think that if you clear up and get over the 2354 level, that will be the answer, that you're probably not going to get to it. Until that happens, you could slip back. In terms of the gold, silver, well, as you can see, as long as you're under the 18-week average, in theory, mine at least, you need fewer ounces. It typically drops down of silver to get an ounce of gold. Now, it looks different than this on the daily because the dailies take in each day of action. But as long as you don't get over 83.18, the market's still, overall, silver is stronger. When we look at silver, it's in a corrective mode. On a weekly chart, lower highs, lower lows. It has not gotten back to here. We'll see if it can make it down to the 18-week average, but it's certainly not in a sell configuration. The copper market's at a key support area. The daily chart's embedded. So they throw out new bearish action, not bullish action, but you got to be very careful of 438.50 on the weekly. This chart is still long-term, higher lows. We see that? Higher high. You've had your correction. This is a real important area. I can't say it enough. It's sort of what platinum did when it got all the way up here and it fell back to the combination of the 100-week and the 18-week, and it held it. And I said on the rally, look for resistance at the 200-week. That makes the most sense initially. If it can clear it in a big way, then you get back up there. And you can see, you've bounced to that. And I am in the friendly camp here until you take out this 945.70. In the dollar, you're a bit overbought. still in a trajectory up. I wouldn't want to see the lows of last week taken out, and you still have the possibility of the 105.54, so the dollar's still very much in the bull mode. Add more yield here, and the dollar probably gets, via the bonds and the notes, dollar probably gets a bid. And when you start thinking about inflation from the two candidates, we're going to get it either way you go, because they're both going to spend, spend, spend. Nobody talks about cuts. They all talk about the tariffs are going to bring in money to pay this and that, to a degree, not the whole thing. And you're assuming an awful lot that they'll build plants here, people, and do that. That is what you're going to hear from Trump. It's the same game. You might as well just hit play on a recorder and you get where you're at. Monday, because of the July 4th, I'm going to have special offers for you to celebrate the holiday. So another way for you to get some courses at a discount, subscriptions, and that'll be it for quite a while for the summer. So I hope you take advantage of it. I'll let you see that on Monday. You have a great weekend.